Jim Ratcliffe does a very good interview with the Times. Now, Jim Ratcliffe can't call out the Glazers because he's working with them, but he makes comments about how badly Manchester United have been run and makes probably the politest dig at the Glazers that he can do. He also threatens to leave Manchester United if he becomes Glazers 2.0. Oh, and I want to go into that interview because I actually think there was more interesting things said in this interview than in the Gary Neville one. I want to talk about some points made. I want to talk about Amorim and Amorim's stance on the current centre-backs at United, Maguire, Euro, De Ligt, we obviously spoke about in my live stream earlier today. Amorim wanting a new centre-back, Romano revealing the plan for a new centre-back. We're going to talk on the Sancho situation. Fabrizio Romano says, as of now, Sancho is set to stay at Chelsea. We've got links to Osimhen. We've got more updates on the Kender situation and the blow there and how Chelsea beat United to the deal. And Onana essentially not wanted and not rated inside Manchester United. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football. And welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news roundup, where I'm going to round up all the news into a 10-minute video for you guys. So if you enjoy, please do hit the like button and feel free to subscribe down below if you're new. Let's talk about the first couple of things that Ratcliffe has said on the Glazers. Jim Ratcliffe. I wouldn't have tolerated Ed Woodward or Richard Arnold. Richard Arnold was a rugby man. He didn't even understand football. Ed didn't have qualifications to run a club. He was an investment banker, an accountant. He wasn't a chief executive. Ratcliffe is spot on. Ratcliffe is absolutely spot on. I'd love Ratcliffe to sit there and call out the Glazers, but he's working with the Glazers and he can't. So when he's taken a dig at the Glazers, he takes a dig at how Manchester United is run in a fair perspective. Manchester United, the biggest club in the country, let Ed Woodward run the club for so long when he didn't have the qualifications. He was an accountant, he was a banker. As a banker, as an accountant, as a guy commercially, Ed Woodward is very good at his job. As a footballing expert, very bad at his job. He was very good at doing deals for United on the commercial side and bringing in money, which is what the Glazers want. But on the football side, he screwed this club over because Ed Woodward shouldn't be running a football club, let alone Manchester United. And Ratcliffe is very right to call him out there. But Ratcliffe also said Richard Arnold. Richard Arnold was a rugby man. Now, Richard Arnold tried. He tried to put the structures in place at Manchester United to make everything easier, and he tried. But he's the guy that wanted to back Ten Hag so much that he went and spent 85 million on Anthony, 70 million to get Casemiro over the line, 72 million on Rasmus Højlund. So, again, Richard Arnold and Ed Woodward, INEOS wouldn't have brought in. And INEOS sometimes get called Glazers 2.0. Am I the biggest fan of INEOS? No. Do I like the way INEOS have gone about certain things? No. But INEOS have to make unpopular decisions because the Glazers have misrun this club for 20 years. We're effed financially. INEOS are going to have to make unpopular decisions to try and get us back on track financially. I don't agree with some of the cuts they made. Some of them I don't think was necessary. But INEOS, for me, aren't Glazers 2.0. You know, I'm not super impressed with them. I'm not super moved by them. But Glazers essentially were letting idiots run the football club and they were taking money out of the club, whereas INEOS are putting money in the club and they're making sure that who runs the football club, Barada and Wilcox, are actually people that know football, so our long-term future should be better. You know, they wouldn't employ Woodward, they wouldn't employ Richard Arnold. So Jim Ratcliffe was right to call that out. He also said, I don't agree with the idea that the ups and downs, that these things happen. Because if you look at Real Madrid, FC Barcelona, Bayern Munich, they remain at the top. That's not the case here because this club has been mismanaged and bad decisions have been made. You know, look at other top clubs, they've remained at the top. Even if they don't win the league, they're still somewhat near the top. You know, Manchester City, this is their worst season in ages. They're still going to at least be in the Champions League. You know, they've somewhat remained up there, but we've fallen off massively. I think the Premier League is more competitive and the Premier League clubs have fallen off more than other clubs when they fall off because of how competitive the league is. But he's saying, you know, there shouldn't be ups and downs to the level there is at Manchester United because look at Real Madrid, look at Barcelona, look at Bayern Munich. We need to be run better as a club. And I think Ratcliffe was spot on with these comments. Now, Ratcliffe's been getting a lot of stick online and he was speaking about this stick. And this is what Jim Ratcliffe had to say. I don't mind being unpopular because I understand that nobody likes to see Manchester United in this situation and nobody likes the decisions that we have to make at this moment. If I attract a bit of backlash, I can deal with it, but I'm no different from the average person. He is different from the average person, but it's not pleasant, especially for friends and family. So eventually, if it reached the same level of abuse as it did with the Glazer family, then I have to say enough is enough. Guys, let someone else do it. The Glazers can't come to a game. They've kind of retreated into the shadows, so I'm the one that gets the blame. I agree with the fact that Ratcliffe is getting the blame for the Glazers' mistakes. The Glazers are the sole problem at this club. You know, Ratcliffe enabled them to stay here longer, which I don't like, but Ratcliffe is nowhere near on the level of the Glazers, and he is now getting the blame because INEOS have made mistakes with Ashworth, with Ten Hag, But the club is 14th, not because of Ratcliffe's mistakes. The club is 14th because of 20 years of mismanagement from the Glazers. I agree with that. But sticking up for the Glazers, saying the level of abuse they get that they can't come to a game, the Glazers have no interest in coming to a game. And if the Glazers are getting so much abuse by Manchester United fans, there's probably a good reason for it. And I don't agree with abuse, but I agree with calling people out. And the Glazers deserve to be called out because they've run this club horrifically. And the reason the Glazers are getting stick is because they've run this club horrifically, and they have no interest in going to games. They can't use the stick they get as an excuse not to go to games. So I don't like that he stuck up for the Glazers there, but I like that he said that if he was starting to get the level of stick the Glazers got, he would leave Manchester United. And if Ratcliffe starts to get the level of stick the Glazers get, that's because he is Glazers 2.0. So if he became another Joe and Amorim Glazer, he said he would leave if he got the stick that they got. Now, as I said, not the biggest fan of INEOS, but I would never, and I'll be critical of Ratcliffe, but he's nowhere near on level with the Glazers. We need to be clear on that. Did he enable the Glazers to stay? Potentially, but there was some context saying that Qatar's bid was never real. Is he going to make decisions that I don't agree with? Are some of the decisions a bit classless? Yes, but he's investing money into the club. He's trying to bring the right people into the club. Ratcliffe wants to get Man United back on track because if Man United get back on track, we'll generate more money and he can make money out of it. But he actually wants to get us back on track. I will tell you that about Ratcliffe. I want to get into one more point that Ratcliffe made, but I would recommend watching the whole interview because he speaks more about the Glazer family and his relationship with them and more, and says a lot more. But he also spoke about Wilcox and data. He said, we still don't have data analysis at United. And I thought that was pretty shocking that he said, we still don't have data analysis at United. He said, all we've got is Jason Wilcox's eyes. He said, and for me, Jason Wilcox is the guy, the coalface. He run the academy at City. And he said, Tixie Bergerstein said that he thought Jason had the best eyes in the club. So Jason Wilcox is a great guy to bring him. He said Jason knows what's working. He knows what's not working in terms of Amorim's system, his playing style, the players he's picking, which players are going to buy in the future. And Jason's got views on all of those things. So when I listen to Jason speak, I get what he's saying. And he's saying, we don't have the data analysis, but it's in the eyes of Jason. I'm glad that Jason Wilcox is doing recruitment and not Richard Arnold and not John Murtough and not Ed Woodward. And I think the one thing I'm glad of is I think that the people that are going to make the decisions at United are more qualified than the people in the past. United aren't in a good place now, but we could be in a good place in 2-3 years' time. And while I don't like all the decisions INEOS have made, if we're in a good place in 2-3 years' time, you have to give INEOS credit for it. I think it's hard to judge INEOS now. They've made mistakes, they've effed up, there's things they've done I don't like, but I think it'd be hard to fully judge INEOS now in 1 year when they've got to undo 20 years of mistakes to get back. It's sort of 2, 3, 4, probably 4 years down the line when you can really know if INEOS have been good or not. But I want to talk about a slightly different topic. I want to talk about transfer news and Amorim sort of thoughts on the defence. Amorim is very happy with Maguire's performance and leadership, but he's 32 and that's one of the factors being considered during internal conversations. Meanwhile, the coach loves Euro, his quality and potential, same as De Ligt. So Leach is out injured, Evans and Lindelof are going to go on a free, Maguire's staying for another year, but because of his age, he's unlikely to stay beyond 2026. And this is Romano saying that United want a centre-back. They plan to sign a centre-back because they're looking at long-term and the depth. And we definitely need a centre-back. I spoke about this in my live show earlier. Slotterbeck, who's I'm all over. I like players like Dean Huijsen as well, but Slotterbeck would be the player I go for. We've also spoke about on my live show earlier today about Sancho. David Ornstein said there's a possibility Sancho could be sent back and he can stay at United. Chelsea don't have to buy him, but they'd have to pay a fee not to buy Sancho. So what has Romano said on this? Chelsea can pay a fee and send Sancho back, but as of today, they want to keep him and he wants to stay. United doesn't want Sancho back, it's up to Chelsea, but at the moment, they're not activating any contract to send him back. If Sancho continues to be bad, I wouldn't be shocked if Chelsea paid a fee to send him back. That'd be classic Chelsea. We pay 55 million from out, they steal Kenda from us, they send Sancho back. Right now, they're not trying to do that. One thing we know is Sancho doesn't want to come back. With his freedom post, he'd look like an idiot if he came back, and United don't want him back. So I think Sancho will go to Chelsea, but we kind of need him to pick up form. I'm not going to lie. I know you can ban to Chelsea whatnot for Sancho being pretty poor lately, but we need Sancho to do something for Chelsea these next few months so he doesn't get sent back and so we can actually get rid of him. Continuing on the transfer news, it was said that United, Arsenal and Juventus will all try and sign Victor Osimhen this summer. He has a 63 million release clause and that will have to be triggered to get him. Not the most reliable source of information, but it might be. I'm just not familiar with the source, to be honest. But Victor Osimhen is definitely one to watch. But let's talk about this story on Andre Onana. So this has come out from Toto Facheas. So I don't think they're a reliable source of information, but this isn't the first story that's come out on Onana potentially leaving United and United looking at alternatives. My stance is, I think United would want a new goalkeeper, but I think United have prioritised wing back, centre back, midfielder, 10, and striker over goalkeeper. And Onana will be difficult to sell unless we go to the 30 million, we'll make a loss. I think Onana's going to go in 2026. I think it won't happen in 25, but I think INEOS are open to changing keepers. It was said Andre Onana has failed to impress Manchester United officials, and the club are reportedly looking to replace him with Wan Oblak. Oblak is a solid keeper, getting on a little bit in age, but for me, I think he's been the best keeper in the world this season. I think he's been unbelievable at Atleti. I think he's a phenomenal keeper. But I believe he's 32 years of age, which, to be honest, he's still got a few years left in him as a keeper. We didn't sign Van der Sar until he was quite old, but I think it's probably not going to happen if I was going to be completely honest. Now, there is one more story that came out from 90 Min talking about Manchester United actually sort of being shocked that Chelsea got Kenda out of nowhere and were not warned about it. There is talk saying that Kenda went to Chelsea because he wanted to be a winger and he spoke to Maresca. But more reliable sources are saying the main reason United didn't get Kenda is because of FFP. We didn't have the money to get the deal done now, and Chelsea were willing to spend that bit more. And I think that's the main reason we missed out on Kenda. Were United aware of Chelsea's interest? Some sources saying Chelsea just snuck in. We didn't even know he was having a medical. Which could come as a bit of a blow to Amorim and INEOS, but I do think we've got a gem in Bendito Mantato, and it might not be the end of the world. You know, if we missed out on a Mateus Cunha, I'd be more disappointed. I think Mateus Cunha would be so key for us. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.